All right, in today's lesson, we're wrapping up the Revolutionary War. After victories at Saratoga and surviving the winter at Valley Forge, the Patriots are ready to seize control of this war and win their independence. Surprisingly, they were able to use speed to overwhelm the British boats on the ocean. Although the British had this huge and powerful navy, they were unable to compete with the quickness of the American boats. The American ships were actually able to give them some trouble, along with the help from the French. Um, Surprisingly, the British struggled at times against the Patriot Navy and the French Navy as they began to gain more control of the seas. Because the British ships could not maneuver fast enough to get their high-powered cannons centered at the quicker British Patriot and American boats. In the West, at Vincennes in Indiana, the Patriots make a surprise attack across the frozen, flooded Wabash River to attack the British fort at Vincennes, led by George Rogers Clark. This was pretty shocking. It showed incredible toughness and grit by the Patriots as they waded through the frozen waters. If anyone's ever stuck their foot in an ice bucket or something like that, they know what that feels like. For hours to surprise the British and then overwhelm them in battle, giving the Patriots more control of the Ohio River Valley and the Wabash River Valley. Big victory. There's George Rogers Clark. Now the push for independence. In the South, the British had a lot of success. They had many loyalists down there that were helping them, but the Patriots were able to use guerrilla warfare to push the British up into Virginia in the northern part of the South, where General Cornwallis for the British was hoping to get support from his navy. He backed into a peninsula at Yorktown, hoping to get reinforcements from his navy, but his navy never arrived, and he found himself in a bad position. George Washington, when he heard about the position the British were in, he quickly took action without hesitation and rushed 16,000 French and American troops to the area to surround them and used the French Navy to cut off the British Navy from offering help. After a siege of several weeks, the Patriots were able to take over the forts guarding the British camp, turn the cannons around on the British camp, and force the British to surrender. This was a shocking defeat as 8,000 British prisoners were taken. And after this battle at Yorktown, the people of Britain, the king and the parliament, lost their will to fight in America. They could have sent more soldiers over, but they decided that enough was enough, and they decided they wanted to talk peace and make a treaty that would recognize the United States of America. So Yorktown is the last battle. More British mistakes. Getting into an area where they could be surrounded was a huge mistake, and it ended up costing them 8,000 men. The key part of the Yorktown battle was this fight for these little hills called roundabouts, where I probably didn't say that right, but for these small hill forts that were guarding the camp. And when the Patriots took those over and turned the cannons around on the British, it was all over. So here's where the British were pinned down, right up against the river. They actually sunk their own boats in the York River to clog up the river to keep the French from sailing all the way in. But it just delayed the inevitable of them being forced through siege to surrender. They got pushed here at this point as well, and you can see the French and the Americans surround them with no escape routes allowed. The Treaty of Paris will end the war in 1783. It recognizes American independence, and it gives the Americans all this land in the eastern part, what is now the United States. So the Americans got more than they even expected. They expected just to get the 13 colonies, but they ended up getting the entire east all the way to the Mississippi River. The British retreat to Canada, and the Spanish, you can see, border us in the south and in the west. So this means independence for our country and the start of a new nation. Thank you for your attention. I hope this was helpful.